Hey everyone, this is Matt from Slam Sector, and you're in the pipe with 5x5, the podcast where we explore the things that make wargaming so special. Today we're going to be talking about the Combat Patrol rules breakdown that Games Workshop come out with. Now, they have a ton of Combat Patrols out there, and each of them has their own rules, so we're not going to hit all of them, otherwise we'd be here all day, but I do want to hit kind of like my fan favorites, and kind of get into how they feel versus a smaller size and everything. Just kind of talk about Combat Patrol in general. But before we get going, be sure to like this episode, and if you're not subscribed, it's a great way to help us out and support the show. Also, to be sure to check us out on our socials and join the discussion with us in Discord, all of which are linked below. Here to chat with me today is Bricky, but this man needs very little introduction. But Bricky, welcome to the show, man.
Oh no! Don't stop. Keep going. I like the flattery. I'm always pleased with it. No, thank you very much. Yeah, you guys sent an email regarding talking about 10th edition stuff, and I was like, hey, why the hell not? Be kind of an enjoyable little topic to discuss, and especially combat patrols, because this is not something that's new to 40K in general in terms of the purchasing side of it, but having this really nice new person buy a box, paint the box, play the box is, I think, one of those things that a lot of us who are so deep in the hobby didn't necessarily roll our eyes at, but just kind of went like, that's cool, but not for me. But this is actually pretty far more in depth than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's easy for us to kind of forget how far we've stumbled into the whole of context with Warhammer and everything. And thinking back to my early days of figuring out, I got into it in the early days of 8th edition, right? And figuring out how detachments work. I remember that tripped me up for an embarrassing amount of time back with 8th edition. So the fact that these combat patrols are you buy it, it's got Rule of Cool all over it, right? It's got some pretty representative models in them, and you don't have to worry about making a mistake on war gear. You don't have to worry about making losing the game at the list building phase or anything, right? It's just that barrier of entry. I feel is so low, and I feel that range is good even for veterans because this is a version of Warhammer that I wouldn't mind playing while I'm a little tipsy or drunk, right? Like this would be perfect drunk Warhammer.
Yeah, it's far less rules requirements. Definitely pretty good. Though granted, I must admit, most of my Warhammer games normally get to the drunk part around battle round 3 or 4.
Oh yeah.
So it always starts off fine, but then it slowly degrades with time. But it definitely is much more casual, much simpler, and it's nice that you don't need to learn a completely different system as opposed to something like Kill Team, which is in a sense the cut down, simpler version of Warhammer, but it's also a totally different game system. So it doesn't quite, you still need to learn and think about it. But it is nice that this does exist, and I think I would have appreciated it back in the earlier days. But then again, I started in 7th, and 7th was a wacky, wild time that most of us like to forget.
I've heard some absolute shell shock war stories of 7th with what was it, the Screamer Bomb? Was the Screamer Bomb 7th edition?
I'm not sure about that, but there was things called I think they were called formations. And it was hey, you can get a Razorback as a Space Marine guy, but it's free with this formation, so it was 8 Razorbacks with assault cannons. I think I vividly remember something Trazen would give a blob of Necron warriors a 4-up invul that was re-rollable with a 5-up feel no pain or something. It was the most. Things were different back then. This is a little bit out of context, but
yeah, that's fine.
I'm happy we're past that. So anyway,
we've come a long way.
Yeah, we certainly can. It's hard to sometimes remind people that we're living in what would arguably be the golden age of Warhammer, despite how insanely problematic it can still be at times.
For sure.
We'll talk about artillery later.
And all the problems it brings with it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. But yeah, I guess a secondary want that I have from the idea of Combat Patrol is the ability to do the actual fabled one game during lunch break, right? I've never been able to achieve that, even with Kill Team, unless someone just gets tabled in Kill Team, like in the first or second round of shooting, and you usually do that because you deployed out of cover. But yeah, I think this is like the best shot so far at the fabled. Like, you know, you got an hour-ish that you can squeeze in a lunch break and pull off a game, you know?
Yeah, I think definitely an hour, because I know sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 30 minutes or whatever the break is. But
For sure. Yeah.
Definitely an hour, because if I'm not mistaken, it is the smaller board. What is 500? No, it's just called Combat Patrol, isn't it? The game size.
Yeah. So it's half court. So if you're using those official fold out cardboard things that Games Workshop puts with all the terrain kits, you're using 2 of them instead of 4 of them. Or you know, the ones that come in Kill Team, you just use 2 of those as well. And you know, it's kind of like planned around using their terrain kits, although they really don't talk too much about it. And that's another thing too. Like, I assume that we're supposed to use the regular core rules. They don't have much in the way of, like, you know, a separate mode for Combat Patrol, but going into these rules and looking at these armies, like, it's probably just the core rules with the edges rounded off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would assume so, because there is a couple questions involving a deployment style. And like the Leviathan box, for example, has the cards and the like, but they only really work for 2K. I mean, I guess you could argue that the primary mission and the mission side objectives, like the minefields and stuff, could be part of that. But, you know, obviously it's meant to be set up in a very specific way. Because in each Combat Patrol data sheet, they do have a secondary objective, you know, and you can choose one or the other for the most part. So it appears that it's played in a pretty classic primary, and then pick one secondary and just kind of go from there. But even so, it, for the most part, seems to be relatively similar, unless the core rules themselves have something regarding Combat Patrols. Because I know it's Combat Patrols, Incursions, Strike Force, and Onslaught, and normally there's a different rule set for each.
Yeah, and we've seen that. What is it? The Imperial Agents Index. They've got that sliding scale that reflects the same. For, like, you can bring 1 Inquisitor or character and retinue, and then, like, for 2,000 points you can bring 2, and then for Onslaught you can bring 3 of each. So, yeah, it's kind of reflected in the I guess ecosystem of the game there. So yeah, I guess those are the assumptions that we have going into it when we're talking about these Combat Patrols, for you, the listener, to just kind of keep in the back of your mind. But I mean, the philosophy of them seems good. You've got 2 switches to toggle, right? So you can juggle one of the 2 enhancements and then one of the 2 secondaries. And it seems like if you have a pretty beefy army where you're like, I don't know how I'm able to lose, like the Custodes box, right? The secondaries aren't the easiest things in the world to score. Like, you're gonna have to, like, do a little bit of work for them. And the Imperial Guard one, I believe, is just like, as long as someone's not in your deployment zone, you are getting 2 victory points a turn. So
right, yeah, theirs is a little bit a little surprisingly decent for the most part. I know that the Sisters one is involving just selecting a certain enemy unit to be judged, and if you kill them, then it's fine. It's actually quite powerful. It's 6 victory points if the enemy unit is destroyed, or 10 if they're killed by a melee attack. So it's pretty much a classic case of, like, heroic challenge, but in its own way. You know, pretty humorous in terms of that. Though I will say the Custodian one, that is literally just kill things with your shield captain, is much simpler, especially when he is, of course, a shield captain of the Adeptus Custodes, a demigod of sorts.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we've alluded to the Custodes one enough. How about we just jump into that one then?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that'd probably be the best. So Custodes is the Guardians of the Throne, which feels redundant, but but I must say the picture on the left of the custodian with those glowing zombie eyes is a bit unnerving on the when you're looking at the actual sheet.
It paints a very weird picture. I've got a feeling that this is someone viewing it without, the Emperor's light kind of softening the edges of this. This guy's been in that armor for a little too long, I think.
No, I think his that arcane genetic alchemy is starting to break down a little bit.
Yeah, that warranty don't go forever.
So what we're looking at here seems to be a single shield captain. 5 prosecutors, 5 vigilators, 3 bikes, and 4 regular custodian guard. Pretty high on the Sisters of Silence.
Yeah, it goes pretty deep. You get the bolter ones. You probably want them hanging back, obviously, and then you get the melee ones. Cross your fingers. Hopefully they don't get run down. But the interesting thing for this is that you choose either 3 bikes or 4 custodian guard, because I think if you brought both, this box would just trounce everyone.
Oh, I didn't actually notice that. No.
Yeah.
Bizarre that they actually make it so that the shield captain is simply the foot captain. You would think that they would go maybe 3, well, maybe not 3 bikes plus a shield captain on bike, but like maybe 2 bikes, shield captain on bike.
Yeah.
So the box comes with them all. However, it does. You have to pick between the 2, and I think I'm pretty partial to the foot guard myself.
Yeah. Especially when you look at the bike sheet and realize that they took away the missiles. So it's just rocking the Hurricane Bolter, which is probably good. You're going to be more infantry focused with this anyway. But there are a few of the lists that are rocking the vehicles. But then again, I guess that's what the Interceptor Lance is for.
To an extent, yeah. At the same time, they don't have any of the fancy like Slayer of Tyrants abilities. They do have interestingly enough, their katas only have 2 stances, just the Katarai and Rendax one. They don't have what's the third one? Captaris, the -1 hit.
Yeah, they pulled that. I think there was one that was precision too, right? I feel like that would be a little strong with this if you're able to just cut the head off the off the enemy's forces right out the gate.
Right.
So that was probably a balance.
I think it's only the 3. I could be wrong though, but regardless, or at least for the main game. But yeah, it is only the 2. It's basically sustained hits or lethal hits, and I guess the lethal hits can really help you with that vehicle thing. But
for sure,
even so, the custodian captain himself with the 4 other guard, just rolling up with 5 custodian guard in a 500-point game. Not to mention the sisters coming on the back too, which, hey, 1 wound T3 isn't great, but a 3-up save in a quarter of the game is nothing to really scoff at.
Yeah, it's definitely, they're running around and covering button pushes and everything. The anti-psyker stuff is still there. I'm glad that they still kind of leaned into that. Although, actually, no. The Vigilators have it on their weapon, too. Okay.
They did lose the 3-up Feel No Pain against psychic attacks, though.
That is interesting. Yeah.
I guess maybe I can imagine that being horribly impossible to deal with if you play like K-Suns.
Oh, yeah. Or
in a tiny little, or a tiny little patrol, and then they just do not take damage. But as a bang for your buck, I mean, the patrol is quite a lot. Like, I think this is probably 900 points.
It's a great start in the list. Yeah, honestly, like 2 of these would, for like a competitive 10th edition list, I feel like if you bought 2 of these boxes with the intent to building, you're probably going to be bike heavy, because I feel like bikes are probably like a secondary priority for competitive custodies on the full tabletop. But you can certainly try your best to make some robes and turn some of these guys into the wardens that everyone's talking about. Although the 10-man guard bricks are, they're supposedly unchargeable, right?
The guard bricks are pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
With the fights first and everything that goes along with them.
Oh yeah.
The bikes will almost never be bad. because they're custodian bikes. They have so much use, but wardens right now are juiced to the gills, and I'm really happy about that because those robes look awesome.
They do, absolutely.
Though you'll definitely want to pick up some Terminators after this, but other than that, I mean, a custodian box like this looks like kind of what you'd assume a custodian box to do. Their secondaries are pretty simple. Their enhancement is really good. You know, reroll, which actually does make a good point. You really wouldn't want the bikes in this list because your enhancement is for your single guy, but if he's not leading a unit, you know.
Yeah, you're basically taking him from synergizing with the other guard to being kind of a meat missile, which is I think the skew, like, 3D chess move in certain situations is to take the bikes instead of the custodian guard and play really cagey with, like, the T3 Sisters of Silence and the captain who is just open to being shot by anything and just takes every wound that goes onto him. But most of the time, I feel like if you want like a take all comers list, you're going to be opting out of the bikes and going with the 4 guard.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'd probably take the reroll advance and charge over the critical wounds increasing AP.
Yeah.
Custodian's AP is fine enough as it is.
It really is. At a certain point, you're just forcing them to their invuln even harder, if it's
definitely.
there. So.
But why don't we look at the other end of the spectrum? We got the custodian one. Let's check out guard.
Ooh, yeah, let's do that. Okay.
Let's check out guard. Mainly because I think this list would actually give the custodians a bit of a hard time. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, guard are not known for being particularly great at killing, the golden 10,000. But coming along with the command squad, 2 squads of 10 Cadian shock troops. They're underneath the tree. And then 2 field ordnance batteries as well as an armored sentinel. It's actually got quite a bit of meat put on them, mainly because when you look into the various war gear options they have, you'll notice that the command squad itself has plasma pistol, power weapons, power fists, but also the regular Cadian shock troops have things like grenade launchers, plasma guns, melta guns, and flamers as well. It's actually far more than you might expect.
Yeah, they're really punching above their weight. I think this is a great box for someone who doesn't already love the Melta to fall in love with the Melta because, man, it's when you see that Melta gun cook off and just you get a little bit lucky with their invuln save and a whole custodian guard goes away from a 20-year-old given a piece of equipment that came out of a forge factory he can't pronounce is pretty good.
Oh yeah, 20-year-old might be even a little bit generous. Though granted, it's a Cadian shock troop, so it might be a bit older, all things considered. They don't really produce a whole lot of Cadians as much as they used to.
Yeah, they got some issues right now.
But it's not just that; it's also their enhancement. I don't know if you've read it. It's actually ludicrously busted. In your command phase of the bears on the battlefield, you gain a CP. In addition, when it issues an order, it is issued to your entire army.
That's great.
What the hell is that? Now, you only get 3 orders, granted.
True.
But take aim is +1 ballistic skill. And it's like, oh, sweet, +1 ballistic skill to myself, my 2 squads of Cadians, both of my field ordnance batteries, and an armored sentinel. It's really, really good.
It's really good. I think you're going to be defaulting to take aim because really what this army wants to do is just load down the firing lanes, and you really want those ordnance batteries to be firing every single turn. So yeah, I'm trying to think of a situation where you want to opt into gunnery officer, but I think that is like some spicy tech pick that you do down the road. By default, command laurels, and I mean, if I'm getting completely whooped, I'm maybe doing some take cover, but most of the time I'm going to be taking aim.
Well, not to mention the fact that they have send to the next wave as a stratagem for 1 CP to regenerate an entire Cadian shock troop squad.
Oh yeah.
Which, as you could tell, there is no limit. You can just keep doing this.
It's great, man.
it means you're playing with about like 800 points, 700 points, where they're playing with 500. It's actually a little bit nuts.
Yeah, that's great.
Not to mention, field ordnance batteries are just a very, very good unit. 4-up save in T5 are nothing really to scoff at in the overall game, but 6 wounds is more than most can deal with if it is far enough away. Not to mention, if it remains stationary, it does get sustained hits 1.
Yeah.
And with an indirect fire weapon like the Bombast field gun,
that's going to be easy to pull off. And
it really will.
If you've got that, all orders across the entire army thing going off, then hitting that ability condition is going to be super easy.
Not to mention the fact that once again, in the attempts to bring back indirect fire, hitting on ballistic skill 5, but then you stay stationary to give you +1 to hit, and then you gain and lose a ballistic skill thanks to indirect, so you're hitting on 4s again with blast and with sustained hits 1. I gotta be honest, the guard one is actually kind of nuts.
I'm very interested to see this one versus quite a few of them, actually. The thing that really gets me the most about the guard one, though, is the default secondary objective they have, where you just get victory points for keeping them out of your deployment zone, which can be difficult, but it's really going to give you some nice padding at the early game. Once they finally push up to your line, assuming they're a melee army that has some extension like that, it's going to give you a few turns of padding before they lap you, if they do. So
it'll be particularly tough when you're regenerating an entire squad of Cadians every single turn.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, no, this is great. In fact, I'll go ahead and pull this one up, and this one comes in the Leviathan box. The Tyranids one has a similar mechanic. So this is the Vardengast Swarm, and I think it's built with the vast majority of the models that are in the Leviathan. You're pulling out the giant brain tyrant, the psycho is it psycho tyrant or whatever it's called?
Psychophage. The Psychophage is the Gribbly Edie one. The Nero Tyrant is the giant big bug. Brain bug.
Yeah. All right. So the Neuro Tyrant's coming out, and the little I guess Gribbly Synapse pseudo Termagants are coming out too, but the rest of the box content I think is making this combat patrol, which is fascinating.
Right, yeah, those two guys are out, but with the 20 Termagants, the Psychophage, I guess it's a flying Tyranid Prime or whatever that new guy is. A few Barb Gaunts and Von Ryan's Leapers. Which is such a bizarre name, but I do kind of like it because, Nid lore is all told from the perspective of the people they're killing. Yeah. So they're Mr. Von Ryan probably got eaten, so now they're Von Ryan's Leapers.
Exactly, that poor bastard.
It's a bit of a mouthful, no pun intended, but
no, it is. Hey, it makes games against guys named Ryan really fun. I will admit. But yeah, they got some really cool stuff. Jumping ahead a little bit here, but one command point and you bring back an entire Termagant squad or revive, return D6 dead models, otherwise add a new unit identical to your destroyed unit containing 2D6 models. So you kind of go casino mode on it a little bit, and you could whiff pretty hard and just bring back 3, but it's a pretty fun mechanic. It adds to the randomness of all these intergalactic cockroaches that are coming out of the floorboards.
Well, considering that the Termagant squad is 20 models,
yeah,
bringing back a full squad is quite frightening.
Yeah,
I will say that their optional enhancement, the Secretion Goad, is really good. You pick a unit within 6 inches, and they get +1 AP. With their weapons, it's just weapons in general, not melee or range. It's both.
Yeah.
So, 20 Termagants with what are they running? They're running Flesh Borers, right?
Yeah. Are they still Strength 5?
They are.
Yeah. Okay.
So that 20 shots coming out like that's not nothing.
It ain't nothing, especially on the assault too. So they really got some a good threat bubble there. It's pretty good. I think I like that more than going with the lone operative enhancement. In fact,
I would agree, especially when you can give it to Von Ryan's Leapers, because they're 5/1/1 and they have 6 attacks each.
yeah,
So getting your free heroic plus fights first on 18 attacks at 5/2/1 is, fights first is a really good rule.
absolutely, yeah. It's I think them having, is this the only thing in the box that fights first? Yeah, I think so. The Psychophage is 5 up feel no pain. All right. And I think the way that I would run this box is leaning more onto getting work done with the Termagants and the Leapers rather than trying to use the big bug. I think the Psychophage is basically like 10th edition distraction Carnifex, right? At least in the context of Combat Patrol. And I don't know. I'm kind of down on the Terror of Vardengast. I'm not super big on this guy, other than kind of like a beat stick of sorts.
Yeah, the Winged Prime I think was kind of a dud when it was launched. It's really just doesn't feel particularly great for the most part. The Psychophage looks quite good, but I don't know. Nothing about him really screamed good, and I'm not quite sure what his points costs are in the full game. But the things he can be attached to aren't particularly fancy. So
yeah,
I don't know. Doesn't really hit too hard, though, which is unfortunate because your secondary objective is kill stuff with him, and you get 4 VP, which is pretty nasty. But if you just do the Chitinous Tide instead, you get 5 VP if you control more objective markers that are within 6 inches, or one or more within 6 inches of your opponent's deployment zone. And since at the end of your turn, it brings you back to 8th edition Stranglehold secondaries, where you just get it very easily.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, I am curious to jump on over from the NIDS real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to look at CSM. I'm a gigantic Night Lords fanboy myself.
Ooh, nice.
And
They're
it's
a good one.
once you read the books, man. Once you read the books, you'll never go back.
They're a tortured legion. That's that's interesting stuff. Anyway,
they're certainly weird. Well, the Tortured Legion is one way to put it. They do a lot of the torturing as well, but the combat troll for the CSM is pretty meaty. It's a Dark Apostle, 10 Legionaries, 5 Havocs, and a Hellbrute. I think the interesting part is, well, right now CSM is quite a good shooting army. Crazy enough, their melee is actually a bit mediocre, but that's also because the core rules aren't being particularly kind to them either.
Fair.
But they have the dark packs to allow for lethal or sustained hits and all that. But I think what's interesting is the use of the Dark Apostle. He doesn't have all the funny rules that he has prior, but he does allow the ability for +1 to the wound roll of the melee attack, and enough Legionaries in there, despite not being super big into melee. This is a smaller fight, smaller battle. And so I think it worked pretty well.
Absolutely. And I think this allows them to get up there pretty good. I think it's probably significantly more difficult in Combat Patrol to find a source of +1 to wound.
That's very true.
It's not super common in full bore 40k, except for Space Marines and that Storm Speeder thing. But I think that's pretty good. And the accursed weapon is probably only going on the champion, I imagine, right?
Yeah, I think he's the only one with the axe. But I think there are a couple people there with chainswords. True. Yeah, I see I think 3 of them, and strength 4, AP 1. You're not going to see many vehicles, so that +1 to wound probably will come in handy. I try to remember exactly the stats for it, but I'm pretty sure the math goes out for if you're wounding them on a 5 or a 6, lethal hits is better. If it's a 4 or better, it's sustained hits is better.
Okay.
with some caveats here and there.
That makes sense.
But
Yeah.
I think it's kind of how it maths out for the most part. But the Hellbrute there is really no joke. They took away his ability, which is actually quite a good one. It's a 6-inch aura of when you Dark Pact, you get both benefits, not just the one. Which is partially why there's a much better shooting army now, because, oh boy. But they still gave him the Hellbrute Hammer, which is 5 attacks at 14-3 D6 plus 1. It's sitting on 4s, which isn't great, but I mean, hot damn.
Yeah, that's evaporating. Anything that you put in front of it, if you just get a little lucky, if that, so the sustained hits might be able to pull off a little bit of help there. Now, does Dark Pacts work on non-infantry? Yeah, it's
everything. So long as it has like the faction rule Dark Pacts in it. I think Tau players currently are learning that Kroot don't have for the greater good in their profile, so they can't spot.
Oh no.
Or at least Kroot hounds can't, which is like, yeah, the dog probably can't laze a target for you.
Right. Yeah, they're gonna have a hard time using radios with no opposable thumbs, I guess.
I will admit, it's kind of hilarious how the Hellbrute plasma cannon has hazardous, but there's no option to turn it off.
He's always got it cranked to 11, man. If any model is gonna have it permanently stuck on 11, it's gonna be the poor bastard trapped in that Hellbrute, you know?
It's gonna be a chaos anything, right?
Yeah.
But combined with the fact that the Havocs themselves have a pretty interesting retinue of weapons, it seems that they've got a Reaper chain cannon, a las cannon, a missile launcher, and a heavy bolter. And then, of course, the Havoc leader often is he's got a plasma pistol, I think.
It looks like a
plasma gun.
Yeah, the whole plasma gun. He didn't leave it at home.
No, he did not.
So I think, and this is good for new players too, because they can kind of like try the variety pack, right? And you kind of natively fall in love with your certain weapons. Like me personally, I'm obsessed with Melta everything, right? That's actually what got me down the road onto Blood Angels, because I was obsessed with the fact that you could give Inferno pistols to plenty of them, especially the sergeants. But yeah, I mean, I feel like someone busting this box out for the first time, and they're getting a lot of games in, and they're having memorable moments, and the Havocs, they're going to fall in love with one of these weapons probably more than the other, and that's going to, take them down whatever flavor they like the most.
I'm actually shocked you didn't follow that sentence up with this is why I got into Sisters. Like, that's like them and Salamanders are kind of the people with the Meltas, you know?
Yeah, I did. I still think back fondly to the, what is it, like the Blessed Trio, when you shoot at something with Sisters with a flamer, a Melta, and a bolter.
The Holy Trinity.
Yeah, that's glorious, dude. That's just, oh God, the lore just writes itself with a single phrase, It's, oh man, that's great.
Sisters have, Sisters and Necrons, to me, have some of the best naming sequences in the games. It's just so, for the Sisters, just so fervous, but then or fervor, whatever. But then some of the things that the Necrons have, like just the simple phrase of "my will be done," it's just so cool. It's got such like
I can't,
just
actually,
strong presence to it. Anyway, what I know you said really you were a big Death Guard guy, right?
Yes. All right. Let me go ahead and pick up Death Guard real quick here. I got it somewhere around here. Okay. So the Death Guard box is a little contentious amongst Death Guard people. So you're looking at just a metric ton of Poxwalkers here. So it's 30 Poxwalkers, right? But you still have Typhus, and I'm glad that they included the biologist Putrefier. A, because I love the name, and B, because like that model I feel like has always been kind of niche through 8th edition and I think all of 9th edition. I think there was like one Wombo combo that you could do that was more cute than effective, but I was always a fan of it. And then, they make use of the actual, Papa Blessed 7 Plague Marines. You don't have to like downsize to 5 or anything like that.
No, which is very unfortunate, as GW has been adopting this only what's in the box mentality, and then you can't run just 7 Plague Marines. It has to be 5 or 10, which is it's a whole thing,
sad.
but
Yeah.
it is sad. But I will say the fact that Typhus, I believe, can get the regen D6 Poxwalkers in your command phase is pretty nasty at this points level.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that one is going as wild as like pulling a whole guard unit or popping up, 2d6 termagants or anything, but it is definitely, that combined with the armor behind the actual, bubonic, do they still have that keyword in them? I always loved that they were bubonic Astartes, and no, they took it away. That makes sense for simplifying the keywords. But so that regeneration plus the armor is just, I think a pretty wild combo. Very, very tough boys, and regenerating the chaff is just very effective.
Yeah, if I would feel no pain on a T4 model, they might just go down, but it probably won't kill all of them in one
Right.
go.
Yeah.
Not to mention Tyvus himself is no fool either. He is he's got all kinds of good stuff with him. Just his overall power as Typhus, and also lowering the toughness with the contagion range in a smaller group is also very, very good.
Absolutely. I think you want to use Typhus similarly to how we were talking about the shield captain for Custodes. You really want him getting in the mix, and that's kind of represented by their secondaries that you can go with as well, right? So 2 VP every time you destroy a model that started the phase in contagion range. So it wants you to be meleeing, but you can cheese a little bit with in later turns with the shooting. But
yeah, 9 inches is you could really just roll up and hit them with that, even though Poxwalkers can't get guns.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, but and then if you know that you're going to be going versus an army that wants to play keep away, you have the flexibility of going to contaminate ground, which is kind of like the Death Guard trope. You plant up in the center of the board and you just outlive the opponent, right? So the fact that they're representing that with the secondary is properly flavorful in my opinion.
Well, also a lot more doable. Death Guard in their terms of their tankiness aren't quite as effective in full 40k, but at 500 points, you could certainly have a pretty hard time bringing things down. Like, I don't know how in the world people could take down Necrons with reanimation protocols. I believe they still keep it. It's only 1 wound, I think. Oh, no, it's D3. I lied. Yeah, I have no idea how you deal with that.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very interesting. And one more last point for Death Guard, but I need to look at Necrons because that's actually one that I haven't dove too deep in. They did get their Discussing Resilient, and it only cost 1 command point in this one instead of 2. But it is in the shooting phase. I just noticed. So,
not just that, but they also have a pretty solid +1 AP in shooting. 1, 2, just whatever you're shooting at, or fight phase, just add 1 to the AP, which is, I would argue, really, really good, because when you combine lethal hits with extra AP, it's like the 2 go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
And the Putrefier gives you lethal hits on a 5-up. And so, get enough Plague Marines, fire the Blight Launcher, fire the bolt guns, and then just watch as you get 5s and 6s, and they really ramp up.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's kind of like seeing the pieces come together in these combat patrols kind of teaches you how to, as a new player, build combos. Whereas I think back on some of like the first lists that I put together back in when I was first getting started, and it was just like triple good stuff, and then I'd be like, well, that kind of fell apart because it was overemphasizing in this one area, and I went too deep onto this one model because I knew that one of them was good, kind of thing. But
right.
Yeah, putting that out for people to get into with this. Shows a little bit more depth than I was initially kind of like worried that it wouldn't have. So it's good.
Yeah, it seems like Death Guard have kind of adjusted how they are for the most part. Death Guard are very much they seem to be less of the I die to nothing army and more of the I am good at really breaking down high toughness, spread the sickness kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Which even though they are not particularly fantastic in the overall tabletop, the at full 40K, the smaller group really seems like it could be. It also feels a little bit more personal, it's like fighting zombies.
Yeah, who doesn't like that, right?
Yeah. But you mentioned Necrons, or moving over to Necrons, so I guess we can hop into that. I do play Necrons myself.
Awesome.
And very, very big fan. Excellent books. It comes with Overlord, 10 warriors, half and half on their weapons too with the warriors.
Oh, yeah.
3 Scorpex with a plasma sight, 3 Scarabs, and a Doomstalker. They do keep full reanimation protocols, which is D3. D3
Wow.
either lost wounds or models that come back. Now, the warriors have lost their super reanimation, which is they reanimate D6 or D3 plus 3 on an objective.
Okay.
They just come back more normally, but the Overlord has -1 damage as well, which I feel like combined with reanimation would make it quite difficult to put him down.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's got some really good bubble wrap with that full 10 pack. I just love that the whole ass Doomstalker is here too.
The entire thing.
Right. It is just, man, I don't know. Its presence is a lot more menacing in this scale of a game versus 2,000 points. So it's do you think the Doomstalker is like the death ray that people want it to be, or do you think it's kind of like in that distracting Carnifex territory?
I mean, it's not too tough. It's only T8.
Oh,
12 wounds is fine, but it has a 4-up invul, which is something you don't see in vehicles often.
Mm-hmm.
I think in Combat Patrol, it kind of is. Blast and heavy is one thing, but if it doesn't move, D6 plus 1 shots, especially take our example of Custodians right there. Strength 14, AP 3, and flat 3 damage.
Oh, yeah.
If it's blast, then you're probably, if it's the guard Custodians, you're getting probably an extra shot. And then heavy, you didn't move it, hitting on 3s. That's like a perfect profile to just absolutely slaughter Custodians wholesale. Though, T8 is not overwhelming. That get the right amount of rolls, and that Hellbrute will just, just kind of crush it. For me, I think it's just the size. Like, have you ever seen a Doomstalker, like the model itself in real life?
Yes, they're
quite tall.
Yeah, they really are. Especially on a half-court board, this is going to make for a very photogenic army, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. The Scorpec Destroyers, in my opinion, would actually probably be the creme de la creme overall. They're relatively tanky with being T6, 3-up save and 3 wounds. They've got a good amount of attacks, and Plasma Sight can juice them. And even if you take one down, there's a great chance reanimation just brings them back up. Also, one of the enhancements you can take, the Overlord, is a reroll, a hit roll of 1. Slap that on the Doomstalker or something nearby, and that could. There's things happening there.
Absolutely, it's pretty wild, and it's good that they've got so much good stuff going on here, because their secondaries are not guard levels of easy, I would say. You want to be in your opponent's deployment zone, or let's see here, 3VP. You got to destroy an enemy unit that started phase within an objective marker in no man's land, basically. The secondaries seem a bit more you really got to work to pull those ones off.
Yeah, a little bit more so. You might just win by tabling your opponent, by them not being able to kill you and you running up on them.
True, yeah.
Though you were, were you do you have a specific army you wanted to hop to? I was gonna segue us to demons, but if that was not what you were looking at,
Actually, yeah, I've got demons just waiting in the wings here, and I
hey,
love.
let's.
I think this is my favorite name of any of them yet. The Butchers of Hyporia. It's yeah, it's just so cool.
All right. Let's do demons, and then we'll end with my sisters. What do you think?
Fantastic, sounds great.
Awesome.
All right, so the demons. You've got. Oh man, how do you even pronounce that?
Don't pronounce it properly because that's how you summon him. So we'll just call him.
Yeah.
What is he even? Just like a fancy blood letter?
I'm pretty sure he's the blood. Ooh, is it Blood Master? I got a buddy who is obsessed with these guys, and he's a Blood Master. There we go. I got it right. All right. So Kibble's the Blood Master. 2 10-packs of Blood Letters. 2 5-packs of Flesh Hounds, and the Blood Crushers, which I think is like a fan favorite of everyone. The Blood Crushers are just such a cool sculpt, in my opinion.
This is actually a meaty, sizable combat patrol. Actually, holy hell!
Yeah. There's a whole lot going on with this one, and in the way of like just all the different units that you're able to put down. I want to say, without respawning, which I don't think you get any of the Reality Blinks stuff with this one. No, yeah, I don't think you're able to be doing any of that.
It keeps the wacky shadow of chaos, but that's about it.
Yeah. So you get to play with the deep strike in all the cheaty deep strike stuff. The Blood Crushers seem like a lot of fun. I want to say this is one of the few instances that and the bikes for Custodes, which most people probably aren't taking in most of their games, are the most reliable source for Lance, right? That +1 to wound on the charge, which these guys obviously want to be charging as much as they can. That's really going to allow them to work on like the Doomstalker and the tanks that are rolling around here. I think there's a few like Space Marines that have impulsors and stuff. So having that reliable melee anti-vehicle is real good.
Yeah, no doubts. I've always actually been a huge fan of Flesh Hounds. They were ludicrously underrated in the tail end of Ninth after the Demons book came out. Mm-hmm. You basically equip all these guys with a flamer. They move at a breakneck pace. And then their melee is no slouch. They also have 2 wounds for no apparent reason. They just do. They're just big chunky dogs, I guess.
And look at what they stole from the Sisters of Silence. They have the 3-up Psychic Feel No Pain.
They still get the Collar of Corn.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't know if you also call them corn dogs.
Oh, yeah, all day, man.
Okay, all right, good. I told someone I knew didn't know about that before, and they felt like they had an epiphany once I told them.
No, dude, I was giggling for the rest of the day when I first heard that, like a while back. So, yeah,
this is actually genuinely like a frightening force because the Blood Crushers and the Flesh Hounds and so the smaller board size, like they're just running at you immediately. 12-inch move, 10-inch move, probably advancing turn 1. Because you're not probably going to get close enough for that. But like the 1 CP Empiric Predators, which is a Flesh Hound unit that is within 6 inches of an enemy unit and has not been targeted with the Fire Overwatch stratagem, you can just move them 6 inches and they can't get shot with Overwatch.
Yeah. It's this is looking like, like an enhanced Unga Bunga game style, where you're just like, okay, I want to close the gap as much as possible. I have multiple tools to help me with that between Shadow of Chaos, Deep Striking, Empiric Predators, and just the raw movement on the Blood Crushers and the Flesh Hounds. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's just like they get close to you, get even closer to them. Granted, running Overwatch might be the better idea because they have flamers. They have flamer mouths. But even so, the option is pretty good. Not to mention that their secondary worthy offerings is 6 VP if the warlord is destroyed, not killed by a warlord. It's just if you killed the warlord,
Yeah.
6 VP, and if it was, but if you made it by your warlord, it's 10 VP, which is a pretty sizable VP thing just to take them out.
Yeah,
it is a little all or nothing, but that kind of, I guess, is Korn's vibe.
Oh, absolutely. I think the more discerning option, the Dark Conjunction, to kind of like, invest and then grow the VP is probably what you want to take when you feel like you don't have a great matchup. I got a feeling, and I don't think we got time to get into it, but I got a feeling Tau are going to be like kind of hard to pin down depending on how some of the shenanigans they got goes. But yeah, man, that worthy offerings thing, that is the one that you games that that you do to pull off worthy offerings are the ones that you retell to people that you're talking about Warhammer games with,
Oh yeah, and also, but at the same time, 500 points can always be really skewed one side or the other, which can make for not only, I guess, more fun, but definitely maybe not as balanced variations. Though granted, I can't really say, depending, because we haven't really tried it yet. It is a neat new thing to look at.
Yeah.
Speaking of neat new things, I'm talking about sisters now because they're my favorite army in the game, and I'm forcing you to go along for this ride.
I'm here for it.
A rhino in here, though.
Yeah.
Relatively interesting to see that. Overall, here is the Penitent Host.
Mm-hmm.
It's a canoness with 10 sisters, 5 seraphim, 5 Repentia, 3 Arcos, a rhino, and an engine. Kind of actually really meaty. And I would honestly say if you were a sisters player or you wanted to get into sisters, 2 of these boxes would be phenomenal. Like genuinely one of the best options to start getting into the army. Because the flying girls are really good and they run in 5s and 10s. I guess you don't really need the second Repentia Superior, but the Repentia are good. Sisters are obviously the mainstay. Having extra Rhino is very good. It's quite solid. I don't know. Oh, wow, yeah. So the Canoness still confers the same thing she gives in the base game, which is full rerolls to hit when she leads the unit.
That's pretty fun right there.
That is quite good.
That is a lot of fun.
The sisters have always been mediocre data sheets with phenomenal rules. That's the concept.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But a 10-woman squad of sisters running with a flamer, the artificer stormbolter, and a whole bunch of bolt guns. It's a bunch of bolt guns is one thing, but it's a bunch of bolt guns with full rerolls to hit.
Exactly. I mean, it's funny when you see that rule and then another one that we're just going to glance over real quick here for this moment. The Space Marines Oath of Moment is just reroll hits now. They took out the reroll hits and wounds. So essentially you're getting, a lady is providing a single unit just full table oaths essentially.
That sounds like a pretty good way to fix some problems with Space Marines right now. We'll take a look at that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Seraphim squad, double shooting their pistols and all that. But the Rhino is just kind of the nice little thing there. Not only because it has the firing deck too, but also being able to transport 12 Sororitas models means they can transport the Repentias and Arcos or the big brick of sisters.
Yeah.
The Arcos in particular are very fascinating. They have the T3 2 wounds, but with a 4 up feel no pain. And they actually kind of shred with 4 attacks at 501 with sustained hits and twin linked.
Twin linked. Okay, yeah. That's fascinating. So you got 3 of them, you got 4 attacks coming out there. Dude. Okay, and you got them in the Rhino to deliver them because, they're having a hard time with that. it's really just the T3 and then the Feel No Pain. You have literally no save with which to interact with.
Meanwhile, the Repentia Superior there has the 5-up Feel No Pain and the Repentia, but they hit at 2 attacks at 6/2/2 with full rerolls to hit and wound when they make a charge.
Ooh, okay.
It's pretty. It's again okay data sheets with very good rules. Though I must say the Penitent engine is a favorite. One because look at the thing. Like it's it's the most death metal concept on the planet, but given the witch hunter makeover, but it's basically got 2 flamers that have twin linked, mind you, and assault combined with the buzz blades that have sustained hits and twin linked, and it can advance and charge.
And they're on strength 10, so they're hitting well above their weight there. This is obviously your anti-vehicle focus here. Yeah, dude. Penitent engines. They're doing a lot more than I remember them doing.
Yeah, back in the way back day, the mortifiers were always the one you picked because they had 2 heavy bolters. Mm-hmm. But now these the penitents seem like much more of a run at you and scream, and and you know what, Emperor bless.
No, it's great.
I guess really the only thing that they're missing is dedicated anti-tank that's like really solid, but that I guess comes from the Penitent, or I guess comes from fancy Miracle dice.
That's an option. One modeling question about this kit: is this the monopose box, or is this the multi option kit? If someone wanted to like scale up to 2,000 points out of this.
Mono kit for the Penitent engine?
Oh, for I guess the entire combat patrol. Because I know some people like to put plasma pistols. Can't you put like plasma pistols on the Seraphim? Is that an option that's in there?
So the Sergeant has a plasma pistol. However, the Seraphim, you can pick out Inferno pistols. They can carry 2 Inferno pistols or 2 hand flamers instead. But those are other girls.
Gotcha.
For the most part, I think this actually would be a fine thing to buy multiple of to scale up, because the Repentia, Rhino, and Arcoflagellants are all stock, like base kit.
Okay.
And I mean, honestly, if you truly wanted to, you could always just later on buy, some other kind, like a Retributor squad, and just replace some of the sisters you got there with the heavy weapons instead, and give the other weapons to someone else. But everything here is just really good to scale up from, for the most part. It's a really good sisters box.
That's awesome. Yeah. The thing that I'm learning as I'm going through all of these armies, and I'm looking at some armies that I haven't even looked at, but before you and I started chatting, none of these feel like stinkers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they all seem like they have. I mean, I guess you could argue the demons one is, if you're not Korn fan.
Oh, sure. It is definitely. I hope you like cinnamon flavored demons. If you got any other flavor in mind, you're going to come up short.
I actually am kind of curious. I'm looking through a couple of these, and the Tau one is a little bit, I guess, a little bizarre. It's kind of going more into the stealth. They have a ghost keel and some stealth suits.
The fact that you can bring a ghost keel is bonkers. Anyway,
I guess K-Suns isn't great. It's a ton of Zangors, and then 1 squad of Terminators. There's no Rubric Marines at all.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah,
that one's a little bit weird. Grey Knights has a Dread Knight, but no one's upset by that. That's perfectly fine. Gene Stealer Colts are looking fine. For the most part, they seem pretty good. Votan was fine as well. I can't really think of anything that's like just so like this would be terrible. Maybe the Eldar one. The Eldar one has 6 jet bikes, which is a little weird. But I mean, if you want to play Eldar right now, you just run a couple of Wraith Knights and you're fine.
Right. That's pretty funny. The Dark Angels bring just a whole Redemptor, which why? Yeah, that's like a boss battle right there. It's It's wild. I love that.
A whole Redemptor is a lot, because aren't they like 170
Oh,
or
the
something?
Ballistus is 170. The Redemptor is 225, if I'm remembering my points right. So
Wow, the Dark Angels box is anemic. It's a Redemptor, Inceptors, Intercessors, and a Chaplain. You're done.
yeah, it's basically you're doing like a Dark Souls thing with this one, which is on brand for kind of like the atmosphere that Dark Angels bring.
I'm the Space Wolves have an Invictor, which is
Oh, yeah.
very bizarre. I would think they would have like Wolfen or something. What a world. Okay, I must say the World Eaters box is excellent.
Oh yeah, that
That
one.
is
That one's great.
yeah, it's was it Jackals, Lord on Juggernaut, and 2 squads of 10 Zerkers. I guess you could have dropped one of the squads of 10 Zerkers for some 8-bound, but it's whatever. It is what it is.
And the good thing about armies that have like smaller model lines is buying 2 of these is like a no-brainer, right? Because it's got some major percent of all of the models available to you in World Eaters anyway, right? So it's not like you're overwhelmed with options, and it sucks that there isn't like a Nurgle Demons box. This gives you plenty of what you're going to be loading up in any list anyway. So
That's very true. I think Votann have the same thing. They have bikes, Berserkers, a Call, and 10 Hearthkin. Honestly, you could buy 2 of those and be completely set. You would just be missing out on like some of the Terminators.
Yeah.
War Specs Prospect. Yeah, Rock and Stone.
I love it. Is the big bubbly RV tank that they have? What is that thing called?
Which RV tank? The small one is the Sagittar. The big one is the Hecaton Land Fortress.
Yeah. How'd the Land Fortress do in 10th edition? Is it holding up, or is it rough?
So, problem with Votann is that they're paying for their sins. Because Votann is an army I have a good amount of points for. The issue is that their judgment tokens got worse, and your ability to put them on people also got worse. And their tokens needed a nerf. Cool with that, whatever. But you kind of had to pick one of the two, get fewer or worse effects.
Right. Yeah.
And they got both. They also moved to a 4-up ballistic skill army. Which is, their guns are good. Don't get me wrong. Their guns hit. But a combination of that, their points just flat out aren't low enough. I will say, it's actually exceptionally bad in the combat patrol. Like just kind of horrid, because you only get a judgment token on someone if the Call stares at it in the command phase, so once per turn.
Okay.
Or once per battle round, or if something on yours unit dies. You only have 4 units.
Okay. Good point. Yeah, that's unfortunate. So yeah, you kind of don't want to be using that part of the rule.
No, not at all. So you're basically playing with no tokens, and tokens give you +1 to hit, and 2 tokens gives you +1 to hit and wound. So that's supposed to make up for the 4 ballistic skill, but they didn't go down in points enough to really do it. The Hecaton Land Fortress is still the thickest, chunkiest bastard out there. But it's and when everything hit, are you really gonna fire the 2d6 damage railgun when you're hitting on 4s?
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
I don't blame you. Well, I guess in those last moments we did find one of the combat patrols that probably needs some love, and it doesn't shock me that it was from one of the 3 unfortunates, Death Guard, Admech, or Votann.
Yeah, at least love in terms of the rules, because I think the models are solid.
Oh, yeah.
The choice of models they picked are really good. But you would not catch me dead running it. If you were like, all right, you need to win 3 games of combat patrol right now, which army you're taking, this is probably last.
Right. Good point. So, yeah.
Other than that, was there anything else you really wanted to cover?
No, man, that pretty much covered just all the kind of like the skimming the surface and kind of feeling the hype off of Combat Patrol. I'm interested to see if any shops do anything wacky and run like Combat Patrol tournaments. I'm sure that there's some broken ones out there, and I'm sure there's some that really need some love. But as it stands right now, I can't really gauge which one is just gonna absolutely clear the field.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Guard's looking really tasty.
For sure.
Crons are looking not too bad, but I don't know. If you were to run Guard and then just roll up with that giant corn army, and you'd probably just eat them alive. So I don't really know. It's rather interesting. It seems like a very fun thing to do if you're getting into the hobby, and it's also way, way, way easier for someone to stomach if you say, "Hey, buy this fun $150 thing," which is still not cheap, but way better than saying one Iron Strider Bellastarii is 50 points and it's $60. So
yeah,
not great on that.
It's not good, and I think Gene Stealer cults are pretty bad as far as points to dollars goes too. And whenever I'm
they're
introducing,
horrid.
I think it's AdMech and Gene Stealer cults that are just like, your wallet is going to be a penitent engine after you get done with all that.
That's you after seeing your bank account screaming on the front of the machine.
Right. Eventually you become the hell brute that's just you never take the trigger off of the supercharge button there.
Yeah, people don't go to chaos because they want to. People go to chaos because the Imperium is worse.
They're driven to chaos. That's a good point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks so much for having me on. It was a lovely time.
Yeah, this has been great, man. So real quick for the few random people that aren't super familiar with where to find you, where can they find you?
Bricky. It's Brick with a Y, and it's basically everywhere. I have the Twitch handle. It's Bricky IG for Instagram, but whatever. My main YouTube content is pretty much just gaming, like gaming reviews related. If there's a Warhammer game out, then I'll make something on that. But if you want something a bit more, well, you guys do like battle reports and stuff, right?
Oh yeah. We've been pretty deep on battle reports, and we're starting up the podcast stuff too, like this. But I mean, in the spare time, also, we're playing all the video games. Currently, I'm going through Bolt Gun right now, and I'm absolutely loving every obliterated pixel of it.
How far into it are you?
I want to say, so I think I'm in like the third major chunk of it. I haven't had enough gaming time that I would want to really just sit down and burn through all of it, because it's got like 4 acts, really, right?
3 acts total, but yeah, when you I'm assuming you've reset your weapons twice, then basically.
Yes, I have.
Okay, I like Bolt Gun. I think it overstays its welcome a little. That last act, nothing, like, you don't get anything new, you don't find any new enemies, and so it's like just a bit more Bolt Gun. But compared to the 40K games we've gotten for a long time, I am more than okay with it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's a fun one. It wasn't like a full $60. I think it was like $20 something, right?
Oh yeah, it's very much worth the money, even with slight flaws.
Totally.
But yeah, I mean, Adeptus Ridiculous is the lore podcast that I'm on. But Dice Check is the battle report channel that we are. Me and my buddy Demeki is the good old Southern boy from Atlanta. We're restarting, moving to a new location. And I think our first game is actually this week on Saturday. So I don't know when this is going up, but hey, if you're listening on before June 24th, 2023, then check it out.
Yeah.
10 a.m. Woohoo!
And if you're hearing this late, then I'm sure you guys are gonna have a VOD of it up, or like a rewatch, right?
Absolutely. And in fact, we're going to have a whole lot of great assets made by your man Boomstick over there.
Oh yeah. He does some incredible magic with the graphics and the assets. We're very happy to have him over here at the Slam Sector.
He is shockingly talented. I was telling him he needs to get himself out there a bit more, because I think some streamers and stuff would really appreciate his work.
Yeah. He's got the artificer's eye, I will say, for for like NFL quality graphics going on for a game of 40K. Feels good.
100%. Anyway, thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Let me know when this goes live. I'll do the retweets and all the fun stuff. And any last words I should make before we go, or do you have a fun outro?
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's actually a good point. I should probably go ahead and run that. All right. So that's going to do it for us on the 5x5 podcast on Slam Sector. We've got new content coming all the time, though. Coming up over the next week, we've every Monday, we've got our now 10th edition live battle reports that you can watch. And remember, if you enjoyed what you heard today, to like this episode, subscribe if you want to get updated when the episodes go up, and check out our socials at Slam Sector on Twitter and TikTok, at .slamsector on Instagram. And if you'd like to participate in the discussion, join us on Discord using the link in the description. Thanks for listening. This is Matt from Slam Sector, signing off.